Good morning, I'm Hunter Sanders.
And this is Nash Young, and you are listening to H&Ntalks. Rise and shine. You're listening to H&Ntalks. H&Ntalks is all about having fun with facts, because if you're not having fun, then what are you doing, bro? Okay, so today I don't have my partner in crime, Hunter. I'm just going to be the N for today for H&Ntalks. So today we will be talking about personal betterment, and we will infer a few basic ways to take care of yourself and to live your life to the fullest. We will also always try to keep this podcast between 30 and 40 minutes long. By the way, check out our previous podcast about Christianity, because if you're interested in anything religious, then this one is definitely for you. So to get started, we're going to do a fun fact today. I'm going to do a fun fact today. I keep saying we because I think that Hunter's with me, I guess, right now. But so first thing is male billy goats known as bucks pee on their own faces, beards, front legs, and chests to be more appealing to does, which are female goats. They spray themselves during rut, which is the mating season for goats. It occurs from late summer into fall. The does love it. That is so disgusting to me. Like, oh my gosh. I actually looked at a YouTube video the other day, and I wanted to see if that was actually true. And they actually do pee on their faces and like all over themselves. Like, look it up. It's really interesting. I didn't really believe it at first, but it's actually true. And I'm also going to do 2 jokes of the day to get it started, because I got to get the people laughing. So what do you do if a blonde throws a grenade at you? Okay. Pull the pin and throw it back. What do you call a blonde with 2 brain cells? Pregnant. God, so stupid. Okay. So I'm going to start off today. It's about self-betterment. So the first point I'm going to talk about is Abraham Maslow. So Abraham Maslow was an American psychologist and is known for making his theory on self-actualization, which the definition of self-actualization is the realization of fulfillment of one's talents and potentialities, especially considered as a drive or need present in everyone. So it's basically wanting to fulfill your most potential, like to satisfy certain needs to get to your top potential. So that was according to dictionary.com. He also made a chart called the hierarchy of needs, which I think, if you know anything really about psychology, that would probably be something that you would know in any form about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the first thing of this triangle, so it's a pyramid. So it starts off with physiological needs like food, water, air, like things that you basically need. And then it gets all the way up to self-actualization. So I'm going to state some of these. So the next one would be safety needs, like feeling safe in like your environment, like what you're surrounded with. Love and belonging. So your affiliation, being part of a group, your family, your friends. Esteem needs such as feeling competent, self-esteem, self-respect. The next one is cognitive needs, which is desire for knowledge and understanding. And that's for meaning and predictability, whatever. That probably didn't even make any sense, but that's okay. Aesthetic needs, the need for beauty, just your body, like taking care of your body in general, I guess would kind of be what that means in a sense. I guess I could go with physiological needs as well. And then self-actualization, which is fulfilling your true potential, your full potential, fulfilling all those needs leading up to that. So that's kind of the basis of where I'm going to go with the self-betterment. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are the 3 most studied personality traits by psychologists, and they're as follows. So there's the need for achievement, the need for power, and the need for intimacy. So the first most researched one, to start off, Jordan Peterson, who is a very well-known psychologist, is a big propagator of these factors. So there's a dominance hierarchy when it comes to being the best at these traits, but Peterson likes to call them the competence hierarchy. Some excel in particularly one of the 3 areas or in all 3, depending on the individual. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Jordan Peterson. So Jordan Peterson is one of my favorite people to watch. He's very political. He's very, very studied up on psychology. He literally, and he has a book out. It's called the 12 Rules for Life, I think, or 12, something like that. And, I've heard a lot about it. He changes many people's lives. It's unbelievable, and he is just super knowledgeable. So to note that he has anything to do with this is pretty big. So The first is the need for achievement. So the need of achievement is the personal wanting of self-betterment and the need to be successful. And I think most people kind of have that. So interest, surprise, and curiosity are common traits associated with this need. And again, I think most people have this sort of thing. I think achievement and power are going to be the main kind of things that people associate with. So anyway, to continue, so where success matters is typically where the need for achievement works best, and so being an entrepreneur may come to mind. So there's personal responsibility. It's a colossal concept, so it's a very big concept when it comes to the need for achievement. You have a certain amount of efficacy in life in being as responsible as possible. So again, Jordan Peterson's a big advocate of responsibility and having efficacy over your life. Like, yeah, there are lots of factors that can come into play when it comes to natural disasters, family problems, things like that you can't help. But you can take responsibility, and you really can control some of the outcome of your life, no matter what you've been put into. So this can regulate the outcome of what is desired. So that's basically what the need for achievement is. So you have a certain amount of efficacy, responsibility, wanting to be successful, putting that into action. So then the second one is power. So the need for power is basically the desire to have an impact on people. There's a need for control and to be the leader per se. And I would say that I have a little bit more of this trait. And I know a lot of people listening, or anybody that's listening to this, could associate with the need for power. But some people are a little bit more passive than others. Some people kind of like to follow and let other people make the decisions. But I like to kind of make the decisions sometimes, but sometimes I like to let other people make the decisions so that the pressure isn't on me. But so basically, typically leaders excel in this need. So control and stability are much needed factors, because when things get out of control, then chaos is created, totally defeating the purpose of being in control. But some people love fixing things, and this would be their time to shine because it gives them a sense of control after the task is accomplished. So to just basically put this into a synopsis, control and stability are the main things for power. So when you control the situation, it's pretty cool. I guess you have that feeling of like, I'm in control and I can choose whether I want this to go or to not. And it's kind of cool to have that. And plus, I don't know, it's really interesting. And like to have the stability, I guess in that situation, you'd have to be confident in yourself with the stability part of that. Because if you're not confident in yourself, then you're not going to really be a leader, I guess, or you'll be just a really sucky one. But anyway, so that's another factor, the need for power, and that may have not made too much sense. I'm a little bit tired right now, but it's okay. So the last one is intimacy. So this is the need for close interaction and or cozy environment with communication taking place. There's a need for experiencing deep conversations and having more emotions typically. Intimacy is more for the caring sector of work, such as being a doctor, psychologist, and just overall well-being for the human race. The gender differences are so subtle in power and achievement that you can almost not put a gender to them. But the difference comes when it comes to intimacy. In the emotional side of things, women tend to put their emotions more into everything they do. Women typically have more of a need for intimacy, and could argue that men are not as needy and are more willing to give up more of their life to be successful. So to back up what I'm talking about, and I'm a Christian, so I'm going to back up the Bible with this, and I don't know if some of you believe in the Bible or not, but anyway. So Genesis 3:17 through 19, and Genesis 3:16. I'm going to go over those really quick. Let me look at my photos really quick because I don't have these memorized, unfortunately. So Genesis 3:17-19 says, "To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground. Until you return to the ground. Since from it you were there taken, or dust you are, and to dust you will return." So I think this is kind of referring to how the man is supposed to work the fields and to go out and labor, like physically labor. So me saying that women are a little bit more emotional and they're more caring isn't anything bad against women. That's a great thing. They have just as much of a responsibility as men do in this department, because raising children and or working in the workforce. If you're a woman working in the workforce and you're the head of the household in a sense, or you do that, there's nothing wrong with that. But just off of a basic Bible and biology, women are typically more suited to take care of children because they are more emotional. And then to back up that claim, I'm going to read Genesis 3:16, which says, and then he said to the woman, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. So when it says he will rule over you, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's just the commander and he's going to tell you exactly what to do. That doesn't mean you don't have a say in whatever goes on. You have just as much of a say. It's just different responsibilities that people take. And childbearing, I mean, when you have a kid, as a woman, you are so much more attached to it, especially at first, because you've had the child in you for 9 months, one, and two, there's chemicals that are going on that will release, that will give the mom just a super, super hard, I guess bias wouldn't be the right word, a very likely to be more attentive to the kid through the adolescent years. But anyway, so women, so in this, there are always exceptions, and there are women out there that have these characteristics to rise to the top, but agreeableness is also a trait that women are more prone to. But overall, this is a brief synopsis on what certain traits for the self-betterment of someone in daily life are. So just to go over that really quick, you have the need for achievement, the need for power, and the need for intimacy. So again, achievement is kind of like wanting to succeed, like you want to go out and get it, your desire to achieve. And then you have the power, which is having basically you want to control and have stability. And then intimacy is basically the emotional appeal, caring for people, that kind of deal. So those are that's the first kind of point I wanted to make. So on to number 2. So organization is key in life. So a study led by Associate Professor Nicole R. Keith, which is a doctor, research scientist, and professor at Indiana University, found that people with clean houses are healthier than people with messy houses. Keith and her colleagues tracked the physical health of 998 African Americans between the ages of 49 and 65. So it's a little bit biased here in the age department. But the reason they picked African Americans is because they were at an increased risk for heart disease. So participants who kept their homes clean were healthier and more active than those who didn't. In fact, house cleanliness was even more of a predictor for physical health than neighborhood walkability, and that's by psychologytoday.com. So kind of what I gathered from that, in a sense, it does make sense to have a cleaner house because, one, I guess clean in a sense, it's more sanitary, less bacteria, that kind of deal. And plus, like when you have clean clothes and clean sheets and all that kind of deal, again, it's the germs and all the crap that's going around, because humans are just disgusting. Let's be honest. Like, our insides are horrible. I mean, if people get opened up in surgery, it smells horrific in the surgery room. So it's really gross. I get a little sip of water. The next study was conducted by Princeton in 2011, found that clutter can make focusing on a specific task very difficult. And this is obvious, like this is nothing new. They found that the visual cortex can be overwhelmed by irrelevant objects, which makes it harder to devote your attention and complete tasks efficiently. So again, your prefrontal cortex is in obviously the front of your brain. It kind of makes the decisions for you. And you like perceive things and it will make decisions. So let's say you have a bunch of things scattered everywhere. Well, one, you're probably going to procrastinate a little bit more because you don't want to clean all that crap up. And two, if you have to get something, you're going to be searching all over for it. My girlfriend, Cassidy. So it's being a little bit more handy with things and just being more organized can actually help you make decisions faster and I guess overall, make your day a little bit more productive in a sense. So I'm going to move on to the next study. So the National Sleep Foundation did a survey and reported that 19% of people said they got a better night's rest making their beds in the morning due to the comfort they receive when it looks neatly put together when they get into their bed. So again, I've heard that making your bed is actually really good to get your day started. I think there was a Marine that did some kind of YouTube video, like it was probably like 5 or 10 minutes, talking about how making your bed is one of the most important things to do in your day because you get your day started and you achieve something first thing in the morning. So it kind of gets your day going in the sense of just getting things done. So also 75% of respondents claim they slept better when their sheets were clean due to comfort. And that's just astonishing to me. I mean, I never would have thought that people would actually claim that their sheets, like they sleep better because their sheets are clean. But then at the same time, it does make sense because I have done this before, like clean my sheets, put it on. And then that night I was like, man, I woke up and I was like, man, I wonder why I actually slept so good. And then I went back and thought, well, I'd cleaned my sheets and I'm sure I've sweated and all my skin's in the old sheet. It's just gross. So, and then I got another study going on. And again, this is just for overall self-betterment to tell you guys like how to make your life a little bit more productive, how to make yourself feel better in healthy ways. So the last study I'll mention from is the Journal of Obesity. And that shows that people who have an exercise plan in mind are more likely to accomplish their goal and maintain their fitness endeavors. How cool is that? So if you plan out what you're going to do and you have goals to achieve, you'll actually shoot for those more so than just blindly shooting for something. Because if you aren't aiming at anything, you may get lucky. But I mean, if you're blindly shooting at a target, I mean, you're probably not going to hit it. So if you actually have something to shoot for, you have a lot more likely of a chance of accomplishing it, whether that be losing weight, eating better, being a better father or mother, doing better at your job, getting more sleep. I mean, the list goes on. So the next point I'm going to be talking about is reading. So reading has become a big staple of mine, and I know Hunter reads quite often. He's a pretty intelligent guy, so I mean, he doesn't have to, I guess, read as much as I do. But I've been really trying to read into politics and just read nutrition, read books in general, extend the vocabulary, you know. So reading works your brain just like exercise works your cardiovascular system. So this, in fact, can slow cognitive decline as we age. So reading actually slows your cognitive decline. So a study done by neurology.com in 2013 showed that frequent brain exercise lowered cognitive decline by 32%. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Studies show that stimulating your brain with puzzles and reading, etc., will decrease the risk of Alzheimer's by 250%. So you are 2.5 times more likely to get Alzheimer's disease if you are not working your brain, if you're not reading, if you're not actually exercising it, because literally it'd be like you eating potato chips and sitting on the couch physically. That's literally what you're doing mentally if you're not working it, if you're not doing puzzles, if you're not reading, if you're not trying to solve problems. It's really crazy what working your brain can do. Oh my gosh, there's a mosquito. Jeez. Sorry for the reverberation in the room. I'm kind of in a wide room right now, and I don't have any, like I'm not in a studio, so I'm on my phone. So the next thing is being physically active. Now, I'm sure everybody knew this was going to come to this because I'm very physically active, and I'm a big propagator of this. So a study done at the University of British Columbia, researchers found that regular aerobic exercise, so there's anaerobic and aerobic. So aerobic is the endurance side. Anaerobic, hence anabolic, which is a steroid, which makes your muscles grow extremely fast, and it's just like kicks in really fast. Anabolic is really fast paced. Aerobic is endurance. So this appears to boost the size of the hippocampus, so the brain area that involved in verbal memory and learning. So it's a very important part of the brain. Resistance training, balance, and muscle toning exercises did not yield the same results. It's interesting. So I believe that the reason why this came out to be, and I don't know this 100%, but we were born as human beings we were born to fast and hunt our food. So we're endurance athlete. We're endurance. That's, as human beings, we are meant for endurance. I mean, because you have deer and you have all these animals that can run 35, 40 miles an hour, and our top speed was Usain Bolt, which is like 27 or 28 miles an hour. And I mean, he can only do that for 100 meters. I mean, these deer can just freaking gallop and go through the woods like nobody's business, and it's unbelievable. So we were meant to go out and hunt our food and actually run for a really long period of time until the animal tired out, and then we'd kill them. So I think that's why this study yielded those results and helped our hippocampus, because we were meant to fast and go long periods of time without eating, because if you didn't kill anything, you weren't eating. So it's very interesting how that works. But yeah, and again, I know a lot of people. I know Joe Rogan, and he mentioned on his podcast with somebody that when he was fasting or whatever, his cognitive ability to think was just unbelievably, like it was so much faster, and he felt a lot better because his body was focusing actually on his brain function than digesting food. So it does make sense. So there's another study that's shown in the clinical epidemiology, shows that replacing 30 minutes of sedentariness with normal day exercising, such as cleaning, light walking, etc., reduced cardiovascular disease by 24%. This study had 1,200 participants and they were tracked for over a 15-year span. This study also showed that 10 minutes of moderate to intense exercise reduced cardiovascular disease by 38%, and 30 minutes plus reduced it by 77%. Now, the thing that they're not really including in this, which the 1,200 participants could have been biased, I don't know, but that's a big sample size. So in this, what I kind of gather was, so just walking, just doing something for 30 minutes instead of sitting there can literally, it can really help your chances of not getting cardiovascular disease, which in fact is a huge amount of people. I think that is one of the top killers actually in the world, is cardiovascular disease. It's one of the biggest, I guess what you would call it, one of the biggest diseases or most prevalent diseases in the world. So basically, if you do 10 minutes of actually moderate intense exercise, being like jogging, running, or whatever, that actually helps it even more, because you're getting your blood pumping. You're actually doing what your body was meant to do, which was to actually go out and hunt and actually like push yourself. So I think biology and our evolution really plays a vital role in like these studies and why these studies yielded these results. It's crazy. And then obviously 30 minutes plus reduced it to 77%. So as it goes up, now there's obviously going to be a plateau where it plateaus and then it starts going downhill if you do too much. But 30 minutes is realistic. You'd run after an animal for 30 minutes. I don't know, but it's crazy how that works. So, and then there's another study. There's evidence that people who sit still for more than 10 hours a day have a 2.5 times higher risk of early death than people who sit for less than 6.5 hours a day, according to Ing-Mari Dorn, who was a doctor at Karolinski Institute's Department of Neurobiology, Care Sciences, and Society. Exercise is important, but eating, in my opinion, is even more important, which, okay, we just transitioned to eating. So food is important. So when we eat right, we are feeding our bodies clean energy that is higher in complex carbs, healthy fats, and natural sugar. The number one fruit that has the most water in it is the grapefruit, with 91% of it being water. An orange has about 86% water, and strawberries, apples, and watermelon are all in between. And that's according to healthyeating.sfgate.com. So basically, what I gathered for that is that water is super, super important. So water seems to make up a lot of our healthy foods, like let's say vegetables. They're saturated in water. So they're even more than the fruit I just mentioned. So our bodies as adults are between 60 and 65% water. So if that's the case, then why aren't we hydrating often enough? Like I try to hydrate as much as I can, but I feel terrible when I'm not hydrated. Everything feels inflamed. I feel sluggish. My joints are hurting a lot more because it's a lubricant. And your body, when it's a majority water, you need to feed it water, man. And so these fruits are all, and these vegetables and these things that are very healthy, they either absorb water really well and they're really low in sodium, or they digest really well and they have lots of fiber in them. And so that's a big staple. I would say being lower in sugar, lower in sodium, because anything natural doesn't have that much sodium, and it has some, but it doesn't have a ton. So having lots of water, having lots of fiber, having some protein and some carbohydrates to fuel you is the perfect diet. And you don't want to go overboard in all those unless you're just like some crazy athlete, like running tons or, I guess bodybuilding or CrossFitter, swimmer, whatever. Olympic athletes, they do not necessarily fit this kind of agenda, but they do have to eat really, really healthy overall, but they can get away with a few things. But so the food that you eat circulates throughout your entire body. So it's providing nourishment and it helps you function. So why aren't we more conscious about the effects of that? Because when it circulates through your whole body, it goes to your brain, it goes to your fingers, it goes to your heart, it goes to your feet, everywhere. And it's like you feeding yourself treating yourself, Dr. Pepper or anything like cake or something like that. Your brain's going to eat that like candy, no pun intended, I guess. But it's going to make you feel like crap. You're not getting the nourishment you need, and it's going to give you a higher chance for diseases and all kinds of stuff. So it's crazy what that does. And by the way, I'm close to the mic, so you might be able to hear me a little bit better. There's a study done by the New England Journal of Medicine. It took 73,700 men and women into 2 long-term studies over 12 years. That is an unbelievable sample size. They had to log their diet at the start of the study and then fill out food questionnaires every 4 years so the scientists would gauge the types of foods and rank them according to how healthy they were. So it's relatively precise. Like this study is pretty solid. I looked over it a little bit and it wasn't too bad. So the results that are going to be yielded in this are going to be pretty good. So the results were astonishing. They found that adding any amount of healthy foods may help lower the risk of early death. Improving diet by just 20% was linked to an 8 to 17% lower risk of premature death. Oh my gosh. So just add you a couple of fruits and veggies into your crappy old American diet and you have a 20% less likely chance of dying. That's unbelievable. And that even goes to show just a little bit of something like food-wise can make a huge difference. So eating 20% more of unhealthy food, in contrast, contributed to a 6 to 12% increased risk in death. So this just goes to show that eating healthy improves tons more. And now unhealthy eating is bad, obviously, and it was a little bit lower percent. But improving your diet yields way better results than doing unhealthy. So even cleaning one meal up a day seems to help. This is great information due to the amount of people involved in the study. So I'm just kind of reading a script right now in a sense. But so there's the 90-10 rule. So they say that 90% of athletics or working out in general is actually eating. It's not working out, it's eating. And then 10% of it's actually eating. So if you're eating right, you literally, I'm not even kidding. I know a guy, I run cross country with him. His name's Tyler Smith. He's such a talented guy, but I think over this winter break, so it's April 27th right now. So it was over in December. He said he didn't really run that much and he wasn't eating a ton. So he wasn't getting fat or anything, but he ate relatively okay. So he did, he ran a mile, I think, and he hadn't run that much in the past, probably 2-3 months prior to that. So he said that he ran like a 4:38 mile just out of the blue, and it wasn't even that hard because he wasn't eating that much, and he was actually just maintaining his body weight. So doing that actually will help you maintain your shape in a sense. Now, it obviously, like, you have to train to keep going up, but in order to kind of just run and be decent, you don't have to do that much. In a sense. So the last point I'm going to make is about God and society. So according to Susan Pinker, who is a decorated psychologist, says this, and I quote, "Face-to-face contact releases a whole cascade of neurotransmitters, and like a vaccine, they protect you now in the present and well into the future. So simply, shaking hands, giving somebody a high five is enough to release oxytocin, which increases your level of trust. It lowers your cortisol levels, so it lowers your stress. Dopamine is also released, which and she stopped there, but I'm going to continue. So dopamine is also released when you can, which can give you a high and kill some pain as well. So I totally attest to what this says. So my roommates and I will talk for an hour and my day will instantaneously get better, as well as talking to my girlfriend. So when you're just by yourself and you're alone, it's not necessarily good to do that. Now, there are times where it's good to be alone and work on yourself, but it's good to be social and to get these levels up, get your oxytocin levels. It helps with trust, and it just kind of helps lower your cortisol levels, which are the stress hormones, which literally can take a huge toll on people's bodies. Tons of stress and all that. You need to socialize with people, get your steam off, talk to them, let them just tell them about you, listen to them, whatever. So it's huge. It's a big deal. So I'm going to finish it off with this. So religion plays a vital role in me and Hunter's lives, as you guys heard in the last podcast. And this can give you, and this can keep you as sane as possible, especially in very dire times. So according to a study in 2013, people who were being treated for mental health disorders responded better to treatment if they believed in God. Religion helps people cope with the hardships they are dealt, and religion gives them a hope for why they are enduring their hardships. In a 2010 study, scientists found that longtime mediators had more activity in their frontal lobes than people who didn't pray. Activating that area can help people be calmer, less reactionary, and better able to deal with stress. The only downside to the study is that people they studied couldn't have been born with the attributes to cope. They may have not been born with the attributes to cope with the stress, but for the sake of the podcast, we will say it is religion. So overall health and well-being is important, and applying the knowledge you now know can help further your life and help you impact others as well. Fill your cup so you can fill others. So I hope that you guys learned a little bit. I know it was a little bit patchy here and there. I was messing up on words and losing my train of thought a little bit, but I hope overall that you guys learned a little bit and that you can put this into your life in some form or fashion. But again, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.